What's going on, my friends? This is Jack, and welcome to It Pays to Write, a show where we break down simple writing skills and systems that can help you build digital leverage and level up in your career, business, personal brand, and more. Whether you're a remote 9-to-5er, freelancer, founder, or aspiring writer, we've got something here for you. Let's dive in. Our guest today on It Pays to Write is my friend Simon Schmitz. By day, Simon is an implementation manager for a government tech company, and by night, Simon is building his own audience and personal brand on LinkedIn, and as a content and brand strategist, he's helping other LinkedIn users do the same. Like so many people who've been on the show, I found Simon through a lot of mutual accounts that he and I follow. Him and I would chop it up and joke around in the comments, and we slowly, gradually became friends, and I asked him to come on the show, and since then, I have learned so much from Simon about growing on LinkedIn, how he's doing that specifically with creating carousels, which have given him the ability to grow his own account by hundreds and even 1,000+ followers a month. I learned a lot from Simon in this conversation, and I think you will too. Enjoy the show. All right, Simon, I am so happy and thankful to have you here, man. I am really grateful that however the LinkedIn gods worked you into my algorithm and in my feed, because as soon as I saw your banner and your design and then how you write too, man, I love the injection of like personal and sense of humor that you bring to LinkedIn. But dude, I know you. I want you to give a little snapshot of who you are and what you do for everybody on here. So tell us about your day job and then tell us your crime fighter evening job and what you're doing on LinkedIn.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. So I'm Simon Schmitz. During the day, I work as an implementation manager for a government tech company where we implement city permits basically in our software. And then at night, I function as a content strategist or brand strategist, whatever you want to call it. And I basically help other people setting up their personal brand on LinkedIn, either through client work or through posts, and try to keep it light, try to keep it educational and not too boring and not too cookie cutter. And yeah, that's kind of a brief description of who I am and how I roll.
That's a really good elevator pitch, man. That's really concise. So, dude, here's what I wanted to ask you about first that I think is super interesting. So I started writing on LinkedIn. I think I created a post last January, but then I started taking it seriously last August. So tell me, in your mind, what has made LinkedIn go from this kind of like nerdy place where nobody was hanging out and you only saw people going to find jobs or post jobs to now it's like entering in its creator, influencer, freelancer, everybody's growing on there kind of era. What do you think's going on there with LinkedIn?
Yeah, good question. I think it actually makes me think about kind of the genesis of that. But if I had to guess, it probably has to do with the emergence of influencers over the last like 15 years or so, ever since Instagram really became a big thing. And then like probably influencer meant like marketing, so to say, right, where they use people and like they pump your brand in a way. And I think then people realize that if you are the personal brand or like you are the influencer of your product, you don't have to hire outsiders to do it because you're the face of it, right? And like you see the same dynamic back in the day, like with ads where the CEO talks during the ad, right? Those kind of things. But people then got on the train that, hey, wait, if I do this for me, might do really well for my business and might save me a lot of money in marketing because I am the marketing budget, basically. And then people realized after that LinkedIn is basically made for this, right? And of course, you had the people that kind of were ahead of the curve and realized no one's posting on LinkedIn other than people announcing that they had a new job or like that we're looking for a job. Why don't I post about like work adjacent topics on LinkedIn, right? And then those people eventually realized that there are people interested in building a personal brand on LinkedIn and we're like, hey, I know how this platform works because I grew here through like the classic post styles, meaning like, I don't know, 10 signs of toxic bosses or like 10 ways to get ahead in the workplace, those kind of posts, right? And then those people started giving advice to those people that figured they want to build that personal brand for their own business. And I think that kind of led to this avalanche of people posting on LinkedIn, hoping something good comes out of it, sometimes more successful than other times. And I think it's just amplified because the people that had success with it, they post about it on other platforms because they want to get more people on LinkedIn, so to say. And I think that's why every year you see more and more people posting on LinkedIn, more and more people joining LinkedIn, being active on it. And I think it's reached its peak at this current day and age, you know. And I don't know if it's going to grow even more, but we're definitely at a time where people kind of got the hint about LinkedIn, that it's not like the world's best social media secret, but there's a lot of money to be made and a lot of influence to be gained if you're looking for that. And yeah, that's what makes it enticing, I think, for people. Long story short.
No, man, I think those are all really valuable insights. I think you think about the same things, where it's interesting to see this platform that had so much inherent value they were sitting on for so long, of like, we are the job connection platform. We are the employee to employer, the freelancer to the person who's hiring them connection platform. And it's like, all of a sudden, I think a confluence of events, like you said, of, hey, people were, doing this before, of like a CEO being a face of a company, and they were posting on other platforms. But then it all of a sudden kind of became obvious of, well, geez, why aren't we doing it on the platform where people are looking for work and looking to hire? So that brings me to my next question, man, is what got you started writing on here? Like, how did you get word of like, hey, LinkedIn's the cool spot to be, Simon?
You remember how I mentioned those influencers that posted about how good LinkedIn can be for your career, whatever you want to do?
Yes.
I think I just came across randomly like a sponsored post on Instagram, just scrolling, and they were talking about like all the positive effects it has posting LinkedIn, right? And I was like, well, I really like my job, but you never know. Maybe it's a good time to get ahead and just start building my personal brand on LinkedIn. Not entirely sure how, but I'll probably just like start posting on LinkedIn, and then I will have 10,000 followers by the end of the month, So I thought, at least. And then that's what I did, made a post about my job, got some decent traction with it, and then made more of that. And yeah, kind of like leaned into different topics, like topics I saw a lot of on LinkedIn, meaning AI topics, productivity, all that jazz, and figured out this is my way to grow. Like, all the people around me because I only follow certain people on LinkedIn. So that's the only stuff I saw. And I was like, I guess that's the way to go on LinkedIn. That's how you're successful on LinkedIn. And I posted about that for like a month and a half or so. And it was pretty cringy, pretty bad content, all AI generated, because I was not really in the mood to write anything about that. And I was like, well, what is going on? I'm not really growing at the rate that I thought I would grow. Everyone's promising me that as soon as you post on LinkedIn, like, recruiters are flooding your DM like with like offers, and you get like partnerships and whatnot. And of course that wasn't the case. So I was like, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong. But like, I kept posting, I was consistent with it, and I got like a decent following. And then I started to realize, well, there's a lot of people that need help with their own branding, because like, I know mine isn't perfect, but theirs is clearly not perfect, So then I started thinking about like, maybe I kind of lean into the personal branding like direction, because I think I have a talent there, and I've done it before on other platforms. And then I just started posting about like how to build your personal brand, and that kind of clicked, and good things happened from there.
That's amazing, man. And what was your background in branding and like building a personal brand before that? Was it purely on yourself? Had you worked with clients or in other marketing capacities before or anything?
I didn't really have any tangible background. I had like a couple of meme pages before. One did really well. I think I had like 10,000 followers or so on Facebook. And that's when you learn about like posting schedules, being consistent with it, right? Like when peak times are, like how your audience reacts to different kind of formats, like what formats work and what don't, which ones don't. And I just applied the same kind of knowledge to LinkedIn. And I also had like 2 instances where I helped people, like friends of mine actually, like that needed an online presence for their job. I helped them set it up just based on the knowledge I had from running those 2 meme pages way back in the day. And that knowledge still carried over pretty well, because certain core tenets, if you will, like they always ring true too when it comes to branding. Doesn't matter what platform it is. So I just kind of like applied that knowledge to LinkedIn, and then figured there's something there. Let me turn this into like a little side career, so to say.
I love that, man. And one thing I love about what you said, because I think there's this misconception that you need years of experience, or you need X amount of time that you work with clients, or you need to be in marketing or have a branding background or whatever it is to start helping people. And I think one thing that you and I have probably both seen that's a great piece of wisdom shared on LinkedIn and other platforms is just, you don't have to be like a 10-year seasoned expert with a long list of certifications and a college degree or a master's in something. If you're just 2 or 3 steps ahead of somebody else in anything, you're qualified enough probably to help them out in their goals and what you want to do. And I love that about your story, man. So just because I think there will be a lot of people listening here who are probably on the edge of like, gosh, do I want to start posting on LinkedIn? Is this cringe? Like, what's my boss going to think? Like, all this stuff. I want to hear a little more about your journey on here. So tell me a little bit about when you started. How long have you been writing here now? And then what has your like audience growth trajectory been like on the platform? And I know that's changed some because they're making updates of the algorithm and everything all the time. But yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah. So like in the beginning, like I said, like I think my whole journey was, like I said, my very first post was about like how to successfully do implementations for a tech company. Like I just like kind of like did like the things I applied at my day job and made a carousel about that because I had an idea that carousels do well on LinkedIn based on my research. And that, like I said, did well. And then after that, I was like, well, this is not really a niche I can really milk. I feel like it's way too specific and way too nichey. Plus, the people I'm talking to most likely aren't spending that much time on LinkedIn anyways. So I was like, well, I see all this productivity stuff. Let me talk about productivity because I like my little productivity hacks in my day life, you know? So I did that. And that was honestly pretty cringe. Like I would post them and it would feel like, oh, this is so not me, you know, like what am I doing? But I was like, it's worth it, you know, like it's for a greater cause. So I kind of kept on with that. And then I think, so that was, I started my first post, I think was the beginning of October last year, that very post I just mentioned. And then after that, like there was a month of productivity posting, the dark times. And then early December, I decided to switch it more to AI because I used a lot of AI in my like day job, like to make my life easier. And I figured, oh, this is such a unique perspective. Let me talk about AI. That's all the rage, you know? But of course, like 90% of LinkedIn had the same idea. So it was just more of the same, you know? And like my post ideas, I would just put into ChatGPT. It would make a LinkedIn post for me that didn't sound at all like me. And yeah, I just posted that, probably got like 20 likes per post, which was decent, grew a little bit of a following. And then Christmas rolled around and then posting got worse and worse. Like my engagement dropped, like my impressions dropped. And of course it was because it's the pre-Christmas time, but I thought it was because my content was crap. And then I just had like some posting, I had like some content batches ready. So I just posted them over Christmas and wasn't really active. And then I went on a walk with my wife and we talked about like how annoying LinkedIn was and how I didn't enjoy writing on there because it felt fake and it's cringy. And all my friends are like, what the hell, Simon? This is not you, you know? What are you doing posting on LinkedIn? You're the guy making fun of LinkedIn all the time, which was true. And then I was like, yeah, crap. I don't want to give up on it. I put too much time into it. Let me think of a different angle. And then my wife was like, well, you have all this idea. You know how LinkedIn works and like, you know how social media works and what makes people tick. Why don't you just post about that? And I was like, oh, it's actually not a bad idea, but I don't want to be one of those people that just like gives you like these tips like, oh, adjust your headline on your LinkedIn profile and you will have 10,000 followers next month. That's not really me. So I try to do it a little bit more general, more like high level, and talk about more conceptual stuff rather than like things that you can do like from day one, which kind of was a mistake, but it worked well. Like the branding stuff resonated with people. I changed my design. And then, yeah, I got a feeling for the niche, like what worked, what didn't work, and adjusted my content. Some posts did really well, got a lot of followers from that. Others were just a doozy, and I got like 10 from it, right? But that's kind of the give and take. And I just tried to be consistent with it and just not have like a week where I wouldn't post, where I always said like, doesn't matter what happens, I'll post on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I comment every day on people's posts just to like get that like memory, like that muscle going, so to say. And yeah. Now it's like 6 months later. Here we are. Like it's been good. It hasn't been great, but it's been really good. A lot of people reached out and asked for help. I was able to help a lot of people with their brands. Learned a lot about content myself. Still learning a lot about it, and yeah, it's been fun. I don't know.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. I love that because so many people will tell you, and you and I see this because I think we follow a lot of the same circles on LinkedIn. Some people are like, you got to do the volume game. You got to post 5, 7, 10 times a week as often as possible. And you're testament to that. Dude, I didn't even realize you were only posting Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because I feel like the algorithm suggests your stuff all the time for me because, you know, I try to like and comment and support you and everything that you're doing. What has if we had to get into some of the metrics, because I do want to get into the details a little bit, and then I want to get mechanical with like the writing systems and processes and even some of the tools that you use. What has your growth been like in terms of like following or your audience in that time period that you've been writing on here and you think you found your zone with like the branding stuff?
You mean like in terms of like overall volume or like just like the the growth rate in a given month?
Yeah, man, you can talk about both. You can talk about the total, and then growth rate is great too. Just to give people an idea of like what is, and I know it's different for everybody, but just kind of like what's possible on this platform right now
Yeah.
from your experience.
Yeah. So let's see. I think like around New Year's Eve, I had like almost 1,000 followers. I think like 980 or something. Because I remember it was a big deal when I finally had 1,000. I was like, "Ooh, this is cool." So that basically right around then, when I had 1,000 followers, I made the decision to switch over completely to branding. And then let's think. I think at the end of January, I had like 2,000 followers, so I doubled it.
Wow, in a month?
Yeah, that was
Dang,
like,
dude.
I'm thinking about it. Never even thought about that, but yeah, that was pretty sick.
That is sick, man. I'd be stoked for that. It took me 6 months, I think, to double mine since Christmas.
Yeah, it's just like whoever the algorithm God's favor, right? And then
Yeah.
in February, I think I get 2,000. I had like one post that went hard. I think I talked about like algorithm changes, which always seems to go well. Don't ask me why, but I guess like talking about LinkedIn tickets the algorithm in a certain way. So I think at that point, then at the end of February, I had like a little bit over 3,000 followers, and then it continuously rose by like 1,000 until like I would say May, and then it considerably slowed down. Same content, like content that used to go really well, all of a sudden slowed down. Didn't slow down completely, but instead of 1,000 followers, I would probably get 500 followers per month. And it's still the same like that. You can have that little feature on LinkedIn where it says your impressions over like the development over the last 6 months. And I think between like now and May, I had like a dip of like 40% or something. And it's kind of disheartening, but at the same time, I think everyone in the niche kind of goes through the similar thing, which makes it a little bit easier. But at the same time, I have seen people that are in different niches, they're blowing up right now. And I think that's something going on there. And I have a few theories, and they're not completely founded in like I can't really back them up with data, because in general, it's hard to back up like algorithm developments and data, because companies, that's like their best kept secret. That's that Big Mac sauce, how the algorithm works, right? You can just use anecdotal evidence for that. But I think I guess I'm not answering the question anymore.
No. This is really good, man. Go for it. So I'm really interested to hear about what your thoughts are and what you're seeing.
Yeah.
It sounds like you were like intimating that they shifted away from giving an algorithmic preference to things about like LinkedIn or branding or marketing, and now other spaces are. Yeah. So tell me what you're seeing there, and then tell me about your informal theory of like what's going on, man. I think this is really important.
So my informal theory is that if you talk about a topic that is supposed to bring you business, right? Like if you're providing a service like ghostwriting, marketing, SEO, branding, whatever it is, like even lead funnel generation, like LinkedIn wants the platform to be more about like networking, more about career stuff. So that's more like it serves a better purpose for you than it serves a purpose for LinkedIn, right? But from what I've seen from people that they're doing really well right now, it's people that talk about a very specific professional niche, right? So my wife, for instance, posts on LinkedIn, and she posts about product management, very specific actionable tips about like how to get into product management, like certain terminologies, and a bunch of product managers like engage with her stuff, because it's kind of it's a weirdly culty field to be in. Like people really identify with that position of their product managers, and her posts go really well. Just because, like, I mean, they're really great quality, and that helps. But like, they also go really well because it's just that professional niche. And then other people, the same thing. If you talk about your career that you're in, like LinkedIn seems to prefer it, especially if it relates to finding a job in that career field. And I think posts that are more coming from people that provide a service and are trying to advertise this on LinkedIn, that doesn't seem to go as well anymore. And yeah. There's some other developments at Bay too, where, for instance, like there is apparently this push to get influencers paid on LinkedIn. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work, but and now we're really getting into speculation territory. But apparently, and I just learned this, I didn't know that Microsoft owned LinkedIn, and it's their only social media platform.
I didn't know that either. That's new to me. Yeah, go for it, man. This is great.
Maybe fact check that. Like I just had a conversation yesterday where someone dropped that. I'm not entirely sure if it's true, but if that were true, it makes sense that Microsoft is trying to position LinkedIn in kind of the same vein as, like, say, Instagram or other social media platforms. And they're kind of going through, like, what do they want to see on the platform? What do they don't want to see? And then I think the other big piece that goes into it is that like the niches that we're in, niches like marketing, SEO, branding, AI, what have you, all those niches seem to be really dominated by AI posts. And I think it's turning the average Joe away from LinkedIn to a degree. Where like they open LinkedIn and all they see is like rocket emojis and M dashes, and like posts, and they're like, "What the hell is this? I just want to see if Brandon from HR got promoted yesterday." And I think LinkedIn kind of like took the hint there, and they're trying to do something actively against it. And like all our like reaches being dropped right now is kind of the collateral damage that comes from that purge. Again, that's just speculative, but I kind of think there is some truth in all of that.
Man, I think you're really onto something. Especially since you've done some examination into algorithmic factors. And what's really interesting, man, for anybody who I think is new to thinking in terms of search algorithms, like I've been doing SEO for a long time. So this has been a part of my life since 2012, probably. But there's like a lot of human psychological factors and business factors here, right? It's like, what are LinkedIn's growth driving actions? Like, how are they bringing more activity to the platform so they can get more advertisers on there to make more money? What are the actions beneath that they need to drive or incentivize to get people on there more? So yeah, I think that's a lot of interesting thoughts, man. So do you think, because I think this is what's really interesting too, typically like when there's algorithmic changes going on like this and they're making big shifts, you'll see performance drop for a while and then it may rise and stabilize. Do you expect that through the changes they're making now we'll see something like that? Or do you think it's hard to say because people are spamming AI content in the same segment so often?
I think like right now it's just like a wild period, and I wouldn't be surprised if it stabilizes again, right? But it all depends on like what exactly LinkedIn's strategy is. If their strategy really is to just push different kind of content, we might be like the era of like just posting content about like all things marketing or AI in general, like they might be over. But at the same time, if content is written by people is rewarded more than AI, then we might see a resurgence again. Like the people that figure out how to use AI just to make like repetitive tasks easier, but don't use it for creative tasks or only use it to kind of like clean up grammar. Maybe we see a resurgence in that kind of content. It's hard to guess because I think like the problem is that LinkedIn doesn't seem to know always what it wants to be, right? Does it want to be a B2B platform? Does it want to be a platform with influencers on it? Does it want to be a platform where you can browse the reels while you're sitting on the party, Like it doesn't seem to know which way it wants to go. Like at the beginning of the year, everyone was talking about video being the next big thing. If you don't do video, you're missing out, and then you post a video, you get 2,000 impressions. You're like, what the hell is this? Like, I thought this was supposed to be the next best big thing. And video is great as a platform, but if LinkedIn really was serious about pushing video, then why does a video perform 20% of like what you would get from a carousel or a text-based post? It doesn't really make sense. So that kind of gives me the impression that LinkedIn, that there are some decision makers that are not entirely sure where the journey is going, and they're kind of in the process of figuring it out. And probably that's why we see these fluctuations in reach that everyone's complaining about. Time will tell, but it's a wild ride.
It is a wild ride, man.
People like giving up on it and like posting, this is it, like I can't do it anymore, like all this work, and like I'm getting like 20 likes and like 500 impressions, is it worth it? Fair point, but I think if you stick with it, like long-term good things will happen.
I think you're right, man. It feels like an emotional roller coaster. Going back to what you said about it's an emotional roller coaster that we all experience in the midst of LinkedIn's identity crisis. Is basically like what is basically what the fallout is here. But yeah, what you said about video is really interesting because I thought it was going to be such a huge opportunity for them. Like a recent guest I had on, Doreen, which, dude, I would love to introduce you guys, and I will. She saw the rise in video going on, I think last fall when it was happening. And I know I'm going to misquote the numbers here, but I mean, she was posting screenshots of her analytics and she was getting like over 1 million impressions like a month from posting video. Dude, myself, I had a post around Thanksgiving last year, and I think it was like the day before, and I was like, you know what, I'll just post a video. I started posting more. I was like, nobody's going to be checking LinkedIn during the holidays, man. It's the last platform anybody wants to be on. They're going to be doom scrolling Instagram and TikTok. And I woke up, man, and I think I got like 137,000 impressions
No
on.
way.
And dude, it
Wow.
was one of those moments, and you've had those too, where you were. I think I filmed it, edited, uploaded. It was like a single take thing. I was like, this is probably trash, but I need to check that box if I posted today. Like in and out in like 5 or 10 minutes, and posted it and forgot about it. And I watched it over 4 or 5 days just go off the charts, and I was like, what is actually happening here, man? But like you've said now, I watch her specifically and a lot of other people, and she told me this too, of like where you're posting videos and it's just crickets. And these are for people who have significant followings like yours and like the 7, 8, 10,000 plus people in their community range. So yeah, that kind of goes back to like we're all kind of having a hard time navigating LinkedIn's corporate identity crisis. But like you said, it's kind of like your investing strategy. It's like you're going to have up years and you're going to have down years in the market. But if you keep posting consistently, you're going to see that net gain in followers from month to month, like over a larger time span.
Yeah.
Stay consistent. Dude, one thing I want to talk to you about, because I think this is really interesting too, is you'll see all types of, creators, freelancers, agency owners, whoever, people kind of in your space breaking down of like branding, types of content, what works, what doesn't. There's a lot going on, I feel like, in LinkedIn at all times of like, is it video right now? Is it just text? Is it text with a photo? Is it text with a selfie that people love? Like, why do carousels just go bonkers sometimes? Like, what have you seen on your end in terms of types of content? Because, dude, I can say one reason I love your stuff. A, your design is awesome. B, I love how much personality and quality you bring to your posts. Like, dude, I never walk away from one of your posts and I'm like, I don't feel like I learned anything from Simon. I'm always learning something from you.
That's high praise. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about your approach to types of content you're using on LinkedIn and what you've seen there with performance engagement, what that's brought you.
Yeah, I mean, like it's pretty. I mean, there's not really any argument there that like carousels by far like are the best format for LinkedIn. You get your ROI for what you put in. They outperform any other format significantly in my experience. I wasn't there for like the video boom. I think I missed just that because I started posting right when that kind of seemed to have hit its peak. But yeah, in my experience, carousels, like if as an example, a carousel gets 10,000 impressions, a text-based post will get you 6,000, and a text and image post might get you 4,000 or 5,000, right? Just in terms of the relation, like the percentage. Or I guess like 100% for carousels, 70% for text-based, 60 or 50 for text and image, and then the rest. Like I don't know where video slots right now because I haven't posted one in a while. But I would imagine it's maybe 40% of like what you get for a good carousel. But at the same time, I think it also depends on the creator, right? If you have a creator like what's his name, Lewis Butterfield, like the video man, like who does a great job with his videos. I think
He crushes video.
Yeah. He has a very special talent for that and like the feeling that you need, and that's just innate, I think. And some people have it and other people don't. I think he makes it work, and I wouldn't be surprised if his numbers would be significantly better if I posted a video about the same topic, and he probably would like crush me with his like reach, But that's just because people that follow him for his videos and not for his text posts or anything else, right? So I think it depends on like what the algorithm knows you for, and then they reward if you're consistent with those formats, So if you're a carousel guy, LinkedIn will give carousels an extra little boost compared to someone that usually only posts text-based posts and then occasionally posts carousel. But overall, when it comes to carousels, I just say I want to post 2 carousels a week, since I only post 3 times a week in order to stay consistent and not burn out. 2 carousels it is because it's good for reach and good for growth. But there are different types of like outcomes with each post format, right? They say with carousels, they're great for growth and they're great for educational content, but not necessarily for selling, right? Then you have text-based posts, they're great for storytelling, great to get personal. You have video just to nurture trust of like your existing audience. You don't necessarily grow from video, but you nurture trust incredibly well. Same thing to a degree with images of yourself, selfies or other images of you doing stuff. That just helps to build trust, but it doesn't necessarily, unless it's a banger of a post, it doesn't necessarily help a lot with like followership. So I think if you want to grow your following, carousels are the way to go. if you're really focused on nurturing trust and nurturing your existing audience, I think video and text-based posts are a great way as well. Same thing for storytelling. It really just depends on what you want to do with your content. For me, I want to do a little bit of both. So I post carousels, like I said, twice a week, and then usually either an image post, a text-only post, or if I have too much time on my hands, which doesn't happen anymore, video, but it's been a while. So
Gosh, that's great, man. Like, honestly, because one thing I do want to help break down for people is that, especially for anybody who's in the consideration stages of like, gosh, I feel like AI, like this is something I think about all the time, man, is like AI is upturning a lot of industries right now. We're seeing a lot of early signs in that with how companies are like slowing hiring, minimizing the workforce, things like that. And I've kind of been on this mission of I want to help as many people start writing and creating content online as possible, because you need to be thinking about things like building your own security, building your own insurance in case the bottom falls out, having a leverageable audience and email list and presence that you could use, ripcord or press button in case of emergency. So one thing I want to do is I want to hear about how you make the approach to creating content tangible. Because I think there's a lot of people who are in, like I said, the consideration phase where they're kind of like scared to put themselves out there. But then there's also people who are like, okay, I know I need to do this, but how much time is this going to take? Because it can take a lot of time, man. Like when I started writing on here, like I was probably spending 10 plus hours a week, because it was like 20 to 30 comments a day. Everything I was writing was totally fresh. I wasn't using AI to help out with like the outlines or using my own templates or like coaching it. Now I have like a content engine that like knows me, that helps me write out stuff. So how much time would you say that you're putting into, because dude, your carousels look great. Like how much time would you say you're putting into the carousels plus that third post? So 3 posts total a month, but carousels do take quite a bit of time. How much time does it take? What's your process like, and what kind of tools do you use to help you make those?
Yes. So carousel, I would say depends. If I have a really good template I can reuse, it takes me less time, but normally I would say between an hour or two. Just between like, usually my thought process is I have an idea for a post, and then I jot down steps for those, like, because I like to like work with steps on carousels. Write down those steps and then write down anything I can think of for those steps, right? Then I put all of that into AI and see what it suggests based on that. And then I usually disregard it because I don't like it, but it gives me an even better idea, because when you see what you don't like, you get better ideas of stuff you do like. And that's what ultimately goes into like my carousel in terms of text, right? And then I try to loosely have a design, like an image on the hook, on the cover for that carousel that matches the content in the carousel. Sometimes I don't really find something, or there's nothing really that makes sense, and I just go with like a funny picture. Or a pop culture reference, something like that. And yeah, stick with my same color scheme, same font, same everything, just so it's consistent. Have little nuggets in there, like the little cat picture on the bottom, on the top left, that says Howdy. I don't know.
I love it, man.
Came to be. I think I was such a novice at designing when I started making stuff in Canva, because that's where I do my carousels. That just like, I remember creating like a cover image and I was like, what the hell, there's nothing on here, because again, if you're a novice designer, you think you have to overcrowd every slide with stuff, which of course isn't the case, but that's what I thought. And then I was like, well, I like cats, and I'm confident enough to know that people know I'm not like a weirdo for like putting cats in my design. So I just typed in cat as an element, found that cat, put a text in there, and thought Howdy was funny because Texas, I live here, haha.
Of course, man.
That's how it came to be, and now I try to implement that, or like put that into every design that I make. So it's like your content becomes more memorable. So you have these little, I don't know what you want to call them, attention hooks or whatever. And I try to put them in any design I do. Like I said, carousels do take 2 hours. Then the writing portion usually doesn't take me very long. I do like the writing process in general, because what I do is I have this little app, what is it called? WhisperFlow, I think, or Whisper AI, something like that. I think my wife recommended it to me. And I click, I think it's command and function or something, or command and control on my keyboard. And then I just talk into the microphone what comes to mind, usually the post, and then it kind of puts it into a readable format with like paragraphs and everything. Then I take that, adjust it, like edit it, and write a hook for it, because the hook is usually not good. Come up with a CTA at the end, and then the text post is ready, and I put that out along with a carousel. Usually, like the text post that goes with the carousel should kind of tell a little story in the beginning if necessary or if possible, and then give a little teaser of what's in the carousel so people click through it. And that's all she wrote for that. And then text-based posts, like those are like the most honest, because A, they don't take me a lot of time, and B, like I feel like I can be like the most creative with those, just because you don't have to worry about like how it's going to fit into a design or how you can chop it up into steps. You can just kind of riff, and I really enjoy that. And that probably takes me like not more than 20 minutes, I would say. And the hook probably takes 10 out of those 20 minutes, just because that's where I try to put the emphasis. And then with image posts, I mean, it depends on what I do. If I want to kind of put the attention to a lead magnet, I put a little bit more effort into the design, but sometimes I just post a picture of me and then put a text over it, and just put it out along with a text post. It's basically a text post. It's just some added extras. And then when I was making video content, I did like a little Q&A format for a while, which was fun to film, but like the editing is just, I'm not a video editor, and holy cannoli.
It takes so much time, man. So much time and energy.
I think 4 hours the last time I did one. And then you get 2,000 or like 3,000 impressions, and you're like, I don't think I'll do this again. Or next time I hire someone to like do the editing for me. Yeah, and that's kind of the work process. And I do that usually on Mondays and Tuesdays. I try to get the carousels ready. And it's kind of a drag, because like you're getting ready, like you're doing your work, your day job. Then you get done with it, it's 5 o'clock, and then you're like, all right, here we go. And then you open Canva and you're like, ugh.
It's tough, man. It really is. Like
things, yeah.
Yeah, man. It's a tough sell to people too, to talk to them if you're like, hey man, you really should work on like building your brand, especially on LinkedIn. They're like, dude, but my day job, it's like saps me. And then it's hard. Like, do you find, gosh, there's so many questions I want to ask you, because you touched on so many great things. Really quick, so I don't lose this, I want to recap. And if you see me taking notes here, I'm just like writing stuff down on sticky notes or in my Notion. So total content creation time. And I think just to give people context here, is you had little to minimal design experience. Canva obviously is super design friendly for anybody who's listening who hasn't used it. We're looking at 1 to 2 hours per carousel, 2 carousels a week, so 2 to 4 hours, and then maybe 20, 30 minutes tops for a text post or a text plus image. The next thing I was going to ask you is, I think you brought up a second ago that you've noticed that text plus image posts, at least in your realm or how the algorithm is tailored to you, gets less engagement, or no, not less engagement, less impressions and less reach than just pure text posts. I've noticed the same thing for mine, and I'm like, this is so weird, because you occupy so much more visible real estate in the feed, in people's feeds when you post a picture, and you get that, people get to know you, people get to know Simon, people get to know Jack. Why do you think it is that text posts will generate, I mean, dude, and this is in my experience, my audience is way smaller than yours, but sometimes like 2 to 4 times the impressions that like a text, or at least that's what I've seen. So yeah, tell me about what you think about that. Yeah.
Good question. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure why. I think there's something psychologically where it's easier to just read a text, because you don't get as distracted from the image. Like sometimes I feel like, and that's just me like talking out of my hiney, but I think like sometimes you see a text post that's accompanied with a picture, and you look at the picture before you look at the text post, and then you saw the picture, and then you forget that you wanted to read the text post, or like the post that comes with that picture, and you keep on scrolling, right? Maybe there's something there. Maybe that's just me, but that might be one theory. The other one would be, if you think about your feed, or like the LinkedIn feed as prime real estate, right? A text-based post takes up less space than an image post. And this might be completely false, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're measured by like how much space it occupies in the feed, how much like opportunity LinkedIn misses out on showing promoted posts, for instance, because that's the new business model that they're trying to pump. Maybe there's something there, probably not, but it would be a funny story if it was true. That might be what it is. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about text-based posts that are just easy to digest. You see them, you click on read more, and that's all you have to do. You don't have to like click through a carousel. You don't have to like look at a picture and see if there's any hidden meaning in it, It's just like posting at its essence. And I think it's great, because for someone that wants to get into LinkedIn and they're kind of like unsure how much time they have for it, and they don't want to dedicate time to learning how to design things and like spending time thinking how to put their knowledge into, say, like a carousel or like a infographic or whatever. I think text-based posts are great because you get a feeling for the platform. They don't take a lot of time to write. And yeah, they give you a pretty good indication of if you're going in the right direction or not, and if you're not, it's easy to change course. But if your carousel design sucks, like good luck redesigning it from the ground up, because it's going to take you a long time, not just 2 hours, right? Probably a little bit more, especially if you're not a designer by trade. So yeah, I think text-based posts, the reason, like the fact that they're being pushed well by LinkedIn is great for people that want to start out because it lowers the barrier of entry, which is already high enough because it's pretty cringy posting on LinkedIn, especially the first time. Like,
you're totally right, man. I've jokingly been saying that LinkedIn is like it's either a toxic positivity up spiral or down spiral. You can't really tell what's going on there.
I know it's so kooky. I don't know. Like it's a fun platform to be on because you don't have any weirdos like on YouTube, like just like saying weird stuff on Instagram, like it's just toxic positivity. I don't know when I heard the term first, but it describes LinkedIn pretty well, honestly. And you just got to get over the fact that you're posting on LinkedIn. I remember, like I said earlier, like I was always making fun about LinkedIn because I would just hate going on LinkedIn because all I would see is like that one dummy from college that got a job at like some random company and I could not care less, or like, please don't tell me that you got a Coursera certification in office etiquette, something like that. You know what I mean? I hated it. And I think, like I said this in the post before, but 1 month before I decided to make content for LinkedIn, I kind of built my personal brand. I posted, I think, on my Instagram, like a picture of a cat throwing up on a car. And then the caption was like, me every time I open LinkedIn, and everyone's like, yo, Simon, you look so funny with this. Like, you hate LinkedIn, don't you? And then a month later, I started posting on LinkedIn, and I had so many friends that are like, what the fuck, dude? Like, why are you posting on LinkedIn? Like, what is going on? Is your company making you do this? I'm like, no. And they're like, why are you posting that? I'm like, I don't know. Good things will happen. They're like, okay, whatever. But now they stopped making fun of it, which is cool. At least for them.
Yeah, man, you've proven it. Dude. I think we all need that person in our friend group or company or whatever who continues to show up and they're kind of hating on the thing that they're doing. It's like that person is necessary because you're grounding everyone. You're like, hey guys, like I get what's going on here, but I'm still going to show up and do this anyways. But dude, I think that's what I'm kind of curious to see, and I think you've got your hands to the pulse on this, maybe even more so than me. I've been noticing a lot more people like you are showing more personality and more of their personal lives and being more jokey and sarcastic and things like that. And even kind of like being deprecating of the platform itself and joking around. And I hope we're kind of emerging out of this toxic positivity, 2:30 a.m. wake ups, cold plunge, sauna, gonna run a half marathon before I eat breakfast at 6 a.m. kind of a deal and meditate for an hour era, and going more into, hey, you know what? We can show up and be normal people too, guys. Like we can joke around, we can have fun. I've been seeing people post more like meme stuff more often, joking around about nerdy stuff like Game of Thrones references or whatever. And I think that realness hopefully will be a next era of content on here because dude, you do that really well. Like that's something that stands out so well. Like dude, I love your pinned post that you're always putting your comments on your posts of like Maggie, your cat is part of your brand and your identity and your realness. And dude, you see that people love that. Like, do you think that'll probably do you see kind of that trend or that curve going of like people are getting over the toxic positivity and going more into the, hey, let's show some personality here?
I hope so. I think a lot of people are afraid that like they're gonna egg on, or like they're gonna rub people the wrong way with that because like there's still enough people on LinkedIn, like the boomer generation or whatever, they think like, yeah, LinkedIn is just for networking and being professional, like I don't want to see some stupid selfie on here. Like that kind of thing, like give me a break, dude. Like this is like every platform is evolving, LinkedIn is like Instagram is not like pictures with like a retro camera filter anymore of like the house party you went to yesterday, Nowadays it's just about product ads and like influencers making reels for it, and that's cool. I don't know, that's just what happens. Facebook, no one posts about like their life updates anymore except for your grandma. It's mostly just like ads, Facebook groups if you're in any of those, and like weird like news websites you follow. And LinkedIn is going to go through the same thing. It's not always going to be like the networking app, you know? If it will stay like that at its core, but there will be more components added to it. And I think people posting stuff that's more them is going to be part of that, right? People being more personable and not like fake personable where they talk about, oh, yesterday I was up until 3 at night writing the perfect LinkedIn post. When I finally hit post, my fingers trembled, you know? It's like, get the fuck out of here, you know? You did not. Like, you wrote this was an AI in 5 minutes, you
You're
know?
totally right, man. They were in bed by like 9:30, sleeping like a baby. They were not up, like sweating it out at a keyboard. Yeah.
Then all this like stupid stuff with like pretending like you love posting on LinkedIn day in and day out. Like no one does, you know? Like this is like a means to an end. Like, yes, it's fun a lot of times. You meet a lot of cool people. But man, does it get old being on LinkedIn every day and commenting and engaging, you know, and like coming up with content ideas. Like I don't love it, you know. I like doing it, but like there's a lot of days where I'm like, this is the worst, you know. I would much rather like go for a walk right now, a bike ride, rather than sitting for an extra hour in front of Canva making a carousel, you know. That's gonna bomb probably. And I think because of that, people might even like become a little like sarcastic or cynical with it, you know, where they make more jokes about the platform. At least that's what I hope will happen. Because for me, like at the point when right before I started like talking about branding, and I was still on the AI train or like productivity train, whatever you want to call it. And my comments were either like really professional, or if I was too tired to come up something professional to say, that would be AI generated, because I was like, whatever, just write it for me, you know? And it would just be so painful. And then as soon as I would like stop, like, because I was like, this is way too much work, like putting stuff into ChatGPT to write a comment for me, I'm just going to write them myself. And I'm not the most professional person. And I was like, whatever, I'm just going to write the way I normally write if I would like comment on Instagram or like my friends post on Facebook, you know? And if it goes well, great. If not, I have nothing to lose, you know, I have 900 followers, whatever. So I did that. And then LinkedIn became a lot more fun after I like started talking more like myself. And it made the whole process a lot more bearable. And then once you've crossed the threshold into doing the same thing with your content, like writing it in a way where like you put your sense of humor in there if you have one, or your personality, you know, like it makes content creation a lot more fun, because like whatever feels real to you will feel real to more people. Your content will do better. You get more like positive input from your content. So content creation will be more fun, right? It's like a self-fulfilling cycle in a way. And I think that's why you see more people making fun of LinkedIn, or like being more themselves on LinkedIn. And you will continue to see more of those people just for the same reason. Too many people spend too much time on the platform. And I think a coping mechanism is just to be more yourself, because it makes interacting feel a little bit less robotic than it already does.
That's such a great piece of advice, man. Gosh, that's probably one of the best pieces of advice I've heard in the past few episodes. And it kind of ties into things other people have saying, where like, if you can't show up as yourself and if you can't have fun with it, why are you doing it? And how sustainable is that process actually going to be? I love what you said about it. Sounds like you started showing up more as yourself in comments first. And that's where you started having fun with it. And it sounds like you eventually got to the point where you're like, yeah, I'm going to, you know, man, I did the same thing. Like I was having so much fun commenting. I have way more fun commenting than I do posting. I've actually legitimately told people, I think I ran a giveaway on LinkedIn a few months ago, and it was like my C4 or C5 like commenting system for content creation. And it's literally like follow 10 people in your niche who have, you know, 5 to 10,000 plus followers, whatever. Comment 20 times a day, be yourself, and then save your top like 2 to 3 comments, and then have AI help you turn those into post ideas or turn them into post yourself. And that is the piece of advice that I would probably give to most people who were just starting on the platform, of like, hey, don't worry about putting yourself under the pressure of like posting, because if you haven't done that before as a creator or a marketer for somebody else, even, it's really daunting. I think I would love to ask you, like, because dude, you've seen such amazing growth on this platform. You're doing incredible things. You've really like carved out this niche of like why people love you and keep coming back to your profile. What are the pieces of advice you would give to new or aspiring writers on LinkedIn who, kind of going back to that trope we've been talking about, who are like, man, I'm kind of afraid of writing, but I know I need to do this, and LinkedIn seems like the place to do it. What's the advice, the system, the tool stack, like whatever you can, and dude, talk on this as long as you want, because I think this is so important for people.
All right. I mean, the first thing I would tell people is just in the beginning, embrace the suck, you know, because you will suck. That's like, you will look at your content if you stay consistent with it, and like a few months later, and you're like, what the hell was I posting? But I think that's part of the process. That's what everyone goes through, you know? And if you do any sport, you know, it's the same thing. You suck in the beginning. If you play a video game, like, you're gonna suck in the beginning, you know, and then 15 hours later, you look at like an old save and you're like, what the hell was I doing here? Like, what's another good example? You watch a show and you have no idea what's going on in the beginning, and then at the season finale, you're like, how was I so clueless in the beginning? You know, it's just like the natural way of how things go. And I think a lot of people think they're gonna hit the ground running. You most likely will not. There's like a unicorn every once in a while, and they just have like this bang on instinct, you know, for content, and they might hit the ground running, but that doesn't happen too often. So yeah, just experiment with stuff when you start posting, and be consistent with it. I think that is probably the most important thing, other than embracing the suck. Just because in the beginning, if you're not consistent, you will most likely not see the outcomes you're expecting, and you're going to give up on it way earlier than you should, because it takes a while for it to for the seed to grow. So like setting that like consistent calendar and like a consistent set of days on which you will post, and like a routine that involves LinkedIn every day, doesn't matter how much it sucks. And at the same time, also giving you enough breaks. I think that's a recipe for success, because there's too many people in that post every day, because like they heard like a year ago a guy that grew on Instagram saying that you have to post 3 times a day every day for the first year, and then eventually you will go viral and you will have 20,000 followers. And that might have worked for Gary Vee in 2015, you know, but it most likely will not work for you, and you will burn out, and you will stop making AI generated content after 2 months in, you know, and then make a big announcement. That's it, guys. I'm done with posting on LinkedIn. I can't take it anymore. Like, I've seen enough of those posts in my short time on the platform. And I think the way to counteract that is by being consistent with it, but not overloading your schedule. And I've heard some people say in the beginning you should post a lot so you get a feeling for content. Yeah, there's some truth to that, but at the same time, balance it with like, how much are you able to do it? Like, if you have nothing else going on, you are a freelancer, you know, you might have a little bit more time to post, then post 5 times a week, you know, and get a better feeling for it. But if you work in a job and you want to test out the waters on LinkedIn, I think 3 times a week is a pretty reasonable cadence, especially if you do carousels. Then more than 3 times is not reasonable. Of course, I guess now that I'm saying it, if you only post text-based posts in the beginning, I think you could get to 5, but at the same time, content creation early on takes you a lot longer than when you get the reps in, right? So there's, I guess, 2 schools of thought. I subscribe more to the school of start slow and like get a feeling for the platform. Don't overdo it, you know, and just play the long game. And then, of course, there's people, if they're more growth oriented or like they want to see instant results, they say just post as much as you can, and just like learn by failing, basically, you know, like trial and error. And I think there's some truth, like there's a point to be made for both of those schools of thought. But I think more realistically, like set a cadence you can like adhere to week in and week out, you know, set a time every day, ideally early in the morning if you can manage, and just get it out of the way, you know, and have a plan for when things happen, like a holiday comes up, like make sure you batch your content the week in advance. Don't write it the day off, because life gets in the way. Like you have a doctor's appointment, like a work meeting comes up, you know, anything else comes up. And the next thing you know, like you don't post on a Wednesday, even though you wanted to. And then you're like, whatever, I already didn't post on Wednesday. Might as well take the week off, you know? And it's like a slippery slope. It's like with waking up early. Like once you start doing that and giving yourself excuses, like it's a lot easier to just like let it fall by the wayside. So really be like diligent with that schedule. And yeah, just don't expect anything big. If something big happens, like all of a sudden you get followers out of nowhere, good for you, man. Like you're onto something, you know, like now like kind of drill more in that direction, you know, like hone in on that piece of content if it did well. But if not, just like it's okay. Like you're not going to grow by a lot, but you're going to get a feeling for the platform. And then if you keep it up and you evolve your content, you pivot, you know, like you learn like how the platform works, you make connections with people, like those interactions will come. I think that would be the 2 pieces of advice: embracing the suck and being consistent. And then I guess now that I said that's it, of course, there's another thought, but it's also very important that you are like populating your feed with people you actually genuinely enjoy, and not people that have a ton of followers just because you think you're supposed to follow this person. Follow people, like, doesn't matter how you come across them, but follow them if you like their content and you can see yourself on a regular basis, commenting under their stuff just because their stuff interests you, because like that's how you build like top of mind awareness in a way, right? Where people will start to like recognize you in the comment section. They're like, oh, this guy that comments there all the time. And then they might check out your post, and the next thing you know, you have like 10 more people that like your comments, like your posts, or like they start like commenting on your posts, like, and that way you slowly but surely build up like a group of people around you that will make LinkedIn more like enjoyable and feel less cringe, because it feels pretty cringe in the beginning.
For sure, man.
See the results.
For sure. Well, I think that's the perfect prescription, man. You covered so many things, from how to develop consistency, and I think embracing the suck is part of it. And I think we've all experienced this in work of any kind, where the first time or first couple of times or first week that you do something and you're learning a new skill or to do something, that's the most time it's ever going to take. Mm-hmm. And then after a month, you're going to be doing it in half the time. And then after you do it for 6 months, you're going to be doing it in a quarter of the time. And then you get to the point like you or me, where you sit down and you're like, okay, I've got an idea for a text post, pure text, no image, or I'm just going to grab an old photo that I have, sit down, 20 minutes, ship it, spent 10 on the hook, 10 on the post, a couple hundred words maybe. So many great pieces of advice, man. One thing I was going to ask you too, because you made recommendations about who to follow and how to follow. And I think a lot of people listening to this who are hesitant to jump in because maybe they're underconfident in their own writing skills. Maybe they can write some great emails from work or some awesome Slack messages, or they're doing, client reports or internal reporting or something like that, and they know how to like write for presentations or whatever. Are there any people that you can think of? I have at least a handful off the top of my head that you would recommend for people who are interested in writing on LinkedIn, who want to learn how to write specifically for the platform, mm-hmm. writing, formatting, storytelling, things like that. Because that's super important, the nuance and difference between, hey, here's kind of what works on LinkedIn and how to format and the mechanics of it, versus like X or Twitter, versus, posting on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or for email or anything else. Who would those people be who are top of mind for you?
I think one person whose content I like a lot, he's more like general marketing, but Finn McKenty is his name.
Okay.
He writes really well. It's not like your cookie cutter LinkedIn approach where there's a lot of white space. He works more with paragraphs, but his stuff is very real and it's very relatable. He's great at storytelling. That's one person whose content I really like, and I think people can learn a lot from him about like how to write good content. Another person is, I think his name is Neil Radcliffe. He's a British guy. And he is like B2B brand marketing, and his writing style is very good as well. He also mixes storytelling with educational content. And then, of course, there's like people that write specifically for LinkedIn. Of course, they won't win a Nobel Prize, but they're really good at like understanding how people read on the platform. I think Nick Brukema is like, he writes really well. He has great design. He's like someone that people usually really like when it comes to writing. And then Lewis Butterfield, honestly, even though he's like the video guy, his writing is really good. Like it's a great writer. Writing, at least, yeah. So even though you would think he's just like a video man, but he's got some really good writing. And then there's so many people, and of course I can't think of anyone right now. Let me see. Go
ahead and pull it up, man. We've got time.
I'm just going through my list really quick.
And just for anybody listening, I will add links to all these creators from Simon to the show notes so they can follow. Yeah, go for it, man.
That's a good idea. There is someone, and I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce her name, but her name is Henneke Dustermaat. It sounds like a Dutch name, maybe. And she focuses specifically on writing on LinkedIn. And it's really well done. It's very easy to read, very clean, and still personable. That's another good recommendation just off the top of my head. And there's, what's his name? Corey something. He's like one of the big creators, but he writes pretty well. Corey Blumenfeld. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No, I have not. Honestly, all of these except for Lewis, I think are totally new to me. So I have a whole new list of people to follow as soon as we do this. Yeah, thanks, man.
Of course. I mean, there's definitely a lot more, but those are good starting points that kind of give you an idea of like how to write for LinkedIn, because of course, like writing for LinkedIn is a little bit different than writing for other platforms or writing for a blog or writing for SEO specifically, because there's a certain cadence and tone, and you can overdo it, right? Like some people take it way too far, where like every half sentence is a new paragraph, and they split up sentences way too much. And it's just a never ending like area of fluff, that just is there to like make the post longer. Or, I mean, it looks pretty, but I can't stand it. It's like when people put patterns into their text, like where it's like a triangle almost, and it goes like in a zigzag pattern.
Yes.
Like, there's no way in hell you wrote this. Like, this would have taken you half a day. This is definitely AI generated, and it kind of annoys me. I don't know. But there's a way to stick out. I've seen that. So yeah, there's definitely, I think people call it broetry or like
broetry. I've heard this term, man. Yeah.
And I think it's like the classic, like, I woke up at night shaking, new paragraph. Like, I couldn't feel my fingers, new paragraph. I forgot to post on LinkedIn, new paragraph. That kind of stuff.
Oh my god!
So maybe don't do that. But many such cases.
Your post is like 10,000 characters, but 8,000 of it is just like dead space of you hitting the space bar on the enter in the return key.
And it always ends up with them shaking before they post.
I know, it's always shaking and sweating.
That.
It's like, are you just over caffeinated? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. Your grandfather stormed Normandy, and you're sweating posting on LinkedIn. Come on, man.
Oh my gosh, that's great. That's great, man. Everybody should use that as a framework before writing. It'll make them less nervous to post. Man, if you had any, because I really want to get into tips that you have too for writers. We've talked about posting, cadence, formats. If you had tips just in your perspective for like storytelling, how you write, like I love, I think it's Jasmine Alik talks a lot about, he's the first person I heard use the term hook and then rehook for those first.
Yes,
oh my gosh, he's a great
writer.
Add
that to the list. I forgot about him. Like, he's one of the big creators, and I normally hate on those, but he might be a little full of himself, but he writes really well, and I think he has really good advice too.
He's great, dude.
Seems like a good guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, seems like a really good dude. I'll send you a couple of. I've listened to 2 or 3 podcasts of his, and he is wildly studious about LinkedIn. Like, he actually got me interested in doing this. He was running tests of like how many characters you could fit on a line, and I think he was doing it per letter because different letters take up different amounts of like pixel space on LinkedIn, and he gets like really granular too, man. So yeah, I'll send you those podcasts and interviews of him, man. But he's a really good writer. But yeah, so in terms of like, hook writing for people, storytelling frameworks that you found work really well for you? Because I'm thinking of like new writers who are like, man, I don't even know how to do this. I think studying great writers and what they're doing is one thing, but what would you say from your perspective, like other tips on?
I definitely don't have it all figured out. I'm not sure if I qualify as a great writer. Like, I can make a LinkedIn post, but the way I approach it is I try to have a hook and a rehook. I didn't know like the rehook idea was like his idea, but it's great because it kind of like keeps you reading. But if you're really good at your craft, like, you can even like put more hook points into your content, similar to like what people do when they make videos, like for social media. I know they always like jump from one hook point to the next hook point. I haven't really mastered that yet, but in theory, that's a great way to do it. But at the very least, have a hook and a rehook in your first 2 lines, right? Like something that captures the reader's attention. Something I struggled with a little bit is keeping the hook short, because I'm from Germany originally, and like I was trained to write long sentences, because the longer the sentence, the more eloquent it is. And of course, it doesn't go so well in English. So keep the hook short and keep the rehook short. And ideally, they fit on the first 2 lines without like a line break. Then you have a good hook. And like, there's certain formats for hooks. And like, if you spend a little bit of time on LinkedIn, you will learn more about those, because everyone and their grandmother posts about like how to write good hooks, because it really is important for your post. Like, that's where like the majority of your time spent writing on a post should be. Like I mentioned earlier, when I write a post, like I probably spend 20 minutes overall, but 10 of those 20 minutes are spent writing the hook or like fine tuning the hook. And yeah, keep it short and keep it like usually stuff that goes really well is like cleaning up a common misconception or like talking about a certain change. Of course, you see the people that talk about like, I grew by 10,000 followers in a month by honing on this little detail, and then it's usually a hook, and they write about hooks, but that's besides the point. But what I like to do after that is weaving in some storytelling or like a funny anecdote I can think of that fits the bill for that specific topic. And when I'm done with that, that's when I kind of lead into the educational part of like my post, because usually there is some like learning takeaway that I try to bury in there. And I I hope that like my storytelling and my hook keep people long enough on the post to get to that part where like it gets juicy. And once that educational part is over, usually there's like a little conclusion why what I just said makes sense and why you should apply it. And then if I feel like it, I either leave a snarky last line, like something funny, or I leave like a call to action where like I post people a question and hope that they kind of interact with that question in the comments, and it kind of gets the engine going when it comes to engagement under your post when you're done writing it. And that's really like all there is to it, I think. Keep it short, not too long. People don't love to read essays on LinkedIn. They would just want to skim over it. Yes, it's annoying, but the white space does make a difference for readability on LinkedIn. You can avoid sounding too much like a broetry guy, by maybe not talking about how you shake in your sleep thinking about LinkedIn. Like just write normal stuff, and then it's all fine because you want to adhere to certain standards on LinkedIn. And then another really good tool, and I promise that I'm done with my little rant.
No, this is great, man. Go as long as you like. This is rich, dude. We love it.
Let me see what the website is called, but I've been using it forever. Oh yeah, TypeGrow. I'm not using their service, but they have like, when you just type it in, there's like a LinkedIn text formatter, and I just put my posts in there when I'm done writing them, and it shows you a preview of what the post will look like both on web and also on the mobile version. And it also shows you where the text cuts off before it shows click or read more. So it shows you where the hook and rehook land before people have to click on that little button to read the rest of your text. And that gives me a good idea of like how I have to format it. So like only the hook and rehook show up. And if you're one of those people that likes to add like bolding to your posts or like, I don't know, like other elements, like you can also use that there. I don't like that. In general, I stay away from anything that the native LinkedIn app doesn't provide you in terms of writing tools or like formatting tools. So no wonky like arrow bullet points, like the little rectangle ones people like to use. Like please no smiley, like no emojis, like don't use the check mark emoji. You're right. Like it's such a pet peeve of mine. I don't know why. Maybe it's from my days using AI to write,
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if you give ChatGPT, for instance, no instructions and just tell it, write me a LinkedIn post, it will always have those blue check marks in there, or the green check marks. And I'm just done with it. So really try to avoid emojis unless they're funny or like they really make sense there,
Mm-hmm.
That's another good tip. And then, yeah, I mean, like there's all these people coming out of the woodwork saying they use M dashes all the time, way before AI. And that might be true. But at the same time, people associate M dashes with AI, like right or wrong, I don't know. But if you want to stay clear of like the AI accusations, probably just get rid of them. And last but not least, write those posts yourself. Like ideally, like what I like to do is, like I said earlier, speak into the microphone, like open ChatGPT, open a chat window, and just like click record, and then just talk your post into the microphone. Then edit it, and if you're done with it and you're not confident in your grammar skills or like you think it's way too long, you can put it into ChatGPT and it will cut it down. Just make sure to tell it not to change any of the meaning. Just look for grammar or like other errors, and then the text stays in a format that you wanted it to stay in. And yeah, I think those are all the tips, and that's how I usually approach writing. No, that was a pretty loaded answer, but
sure. No, man, honestly, that was great. That was great. There's so much in there that I even want to like underscore more for people who are just getting into writing. One, I want to make sure I've got the name of the tool right. Did you say the formatting one you use for LinkedIn posts? TypePro, Pro?
Let me see. Let me double check. TypeGrow. Like
TypeGrow. Okay, TypeGrow. And I'll add that to the show notes too so people can see it. And is it a freemium paid app?
Yeah, it's free. Yeah, let me put it in the chat actually. Is there a chat? No, there isn't. I'll send it to you on LinkedIn so you don't have to go searching for it.
Yeah, man, drop it in there and I will
But it's pretty helpful. Like you can probably useful for you as well. Who knows? Like I don't know, that was one of the first tools I've ever used, and like it's been good so far. So like,
and will it do the spacing and stuff for you? Like break up the sentences, do the spacing, or okay, gotcha.
Itself. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it does. I don't think so though. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like you can also have ChatGPT break it up into that format if you don't want to do it yourself. I mean, it's not too hard. You just press enter, right?
Yeah, just a bunch of like 10 to 20 times, and it's not that bad. It takes like 20
there's some
seconds.
nuances to it, like bulleted lists keep them together. It's a little bit like design, like text that's belonging together, keep it together. If it's a sentence and there's a line break, don't have a space in between that, like a paragraph in between that, those kind of things. But more times than not, like LinkedIn does, ChatGPT or any other AI agent, like they do a pretty good job with formatting it for LinkedIn for you if you ask it to in a good way. Of course, then you get into like prompt engineering, like making sure the prompt is descriptive and kind of keeps the thing from like staying in its boundaries, like where it doesn't completely run roughshod with your content. Because I've had it before where I have it just edit my grammar mistakes, and then next thing you know, like half the stuff that's written in there is not from me, and I'm like, what the hell, dude? I told you not to do it, and I still did it. So make sure you read everything that the thing edits, because it's not nowhere perfect. I know people always say AI will come and take your job. Pretty sure it won't. It's probably just going to create more work for you because more is expected of you. But that's for a different podcast.
No, yeah. Well, and dude, that being said, I would love to have you back on to talk about that. I think we could shoot at least a couple hours talking about the thoughts and informal theories that AI is going to have on the workforce and how people can kind of get ahead of that. Yeah. And yeah, man, I would love to have you back on to talk about that. And one thing I want to circle back to really quick, because I think the writing tips here that you gave are so important. Like, you highlighted something just now that I've been doing a lot more and recommending to a lot more people, which is it's way easier to speak than to write. Like writing is it's almost like your second language, but like if you can speak, that's a lot more fluid and natural. And the best writing sounds like spoken language. And I know people can debate that, like, there's creative writing versus like more commercial, social media, casual, whatever. But one thing, and dude, this is a funny example, but so I have these custom ChatGPT projects for different things that I do. So like my LinkedIn posts, I have one that's a carousel and like X thread or tweet thread, like formatter, where I can speak it out and it will break it out the way I want to. So I can literally copy paste it into its slides. It knows how to format and write like me on LinkedIn, so on and so forth. But one thing I've found myself doing just in the last probably 3 or 4 months, a lot more, is speaking. Because even though I'm a writer and I've been doing it a long time, it's so much faster and easier to talk. It makes my content better when I'm just speaking to the AI. So this past weekend, man, I had an email campaign that I sent on Sunday, and then I had an exciting post I think I shared about the podcast and launching that this week. And dude, I got up, went out to the kitchen, made a cup of coffee, sat on my patio. Same way I start like any work day, like 7 days a week if I'm home, that's what I'm doing. And I just opened up ChatGPT and I was like, hey, I need an email campaign. Here's a post I had that did really well this week. I'm also launching a podcast. Write the email. Here's what I want you to include. Spoke for 2 minutes, spat it out. 97% just spot on. Sounded like me because nice. I spoke to it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, perfect. And then I just opened up my LinkedIn one that knows a lot about me. And I was like, hey, yeah, so I've got this going on. You have an idea, because I use it all the time for my stuff. I'm like, what's going on in like, LinkedIn or my life or whatever. I've got this email campaign I just told you about. Here it is, see attached. Write a 300-word, social post on this. And dude, no joke, it was like under probably 5 minutes of speaking to ChatGPT, wow. I had an 800-word email campaign that needed minimal editing and formatting. The editing and formatting might have taken me like 10 or 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. The post, probably about the same. So like, well under an hour, like 40 minutes to have like wow. great pieces of content that sound like me. And that's a tip that I wanted to circle back to with you is like, I would encourage anybody creating content for the first time or LinkedIn posts or whatever, please use these AI tools or use some kind of AI transcription service for yourself, or just even like your voice memos on your iPhone. Talk it out first, because that's going to be way easier for you and faster for you, even if you're a fast typist, to convey all those ideas to the machine. Have you found yourself using the speech to text, or what is it, the advanced voice, where you actually like talk to a voice on ChatGPT more in your workflow?
I do that all the time. Like, I don't enjoy writing in itself. I think I was always good in school at writing. I just hated doing it. So like if I had like an essay that I was due like for German class or whatever, I would just procrastinate all day and then write it down in like an hour late at night, and would just hate it. And then when I was in college, like an undergrad or like my master's, like I would always like have to write a paper, and I would be like, this is the worst. Now I have to write like 30 pages in 2 months, and I would like write 1 page a day, and it would just feel like a slog, and it would look good at the end, but it would just like drain me. And then when AI came around, even emails, like I just hate writing emails, like now I have to include all this information in a concise way. Like, can I just like do like, I don't know, coding or something, This is like a lot more straightforward. But then AI came around, and I was like, well, this is beautiful, because like, yes, the first draft of the email I want to send out, it sounds pretty dumb, but it gives me something to write. Because at the end of my college career, I was always like, when I had to write something, I would just write crappy first draft, because it just dawned on me that having like a blank page in front of you is the hardest thing about writing. And as soon as you have something, you just have to edit it and like tweak it. It makes it so much easier and like such a more fluent process. And AI kind of does the same thing for me, where like, even if the first draft is bad, it gives me something to go off. And like, now that I can just use voice to text, I don't even have to have ChatGPT created. I can just ramble into the microphone, get something that's pretty good, and then I just have to tweak it, and I can use AI again to tweak it even more if I want to like optimize it for mobile viewing, or like, I don't know, I can't think of a certain saying that fits here, like maybe let AI take a crack at it. That helps a lot, especially now that you have projects, at least on ChatGPT, where you can kind of organize all the ideas a little bit more, and you can tell in those projects, you can give the bot like specific instructions, right? Like, I need, all about this, but in case someone that's listening is not aware of this, those projects are basically a little bit like custom GPTs, but they organize your output a little bit more, which is why I like projects over custom GPTs. And I have a bunch of projects for like my day job, for like my personal life, just for writing emails, one for content, and like they all have very specific prompts that help me like just fine tune the content. And I think on the AI topic, one thing that helped me a lot is when I'm too lazy to write like a detailed prompt, I just write a crappy one and then tell AI turn this into a good prompt, which is kind of a funny thing if you think about it, but it does it really well. And then those prompts work really well because they're made by the thing that uses it,
Mm-hmm.
And that helped me a lot with like using ChatGPT. So that's kind of how I go about writing. Long story short.
No, that's great, man. I love the idea because I think new AI users, which there's probably a lot of people who are just using it casually for probably email, since that's something that consumes 2 or 3 or 4 hours of the average remote worker's workday. And I think teaching people how to think about the tool is so important, because there are so many times where I will go to one of my AI projects. Like, I have one that does competitive analysis, or one that'll do like an SEO, like deep dive audit for me or something about something I'm curious. And of course I have like a prompt library that I save like some of the best prompts I've seen from people in Notion. But you just made such a great point of like, you don't even really need a prompt library. Just flip on like O3 or 4.0 or whatever you're using. I think O4 high is what I've been using, because dude, I trounced my O3 usage this month. I was getting so much out of that model. It's awesome, dude. It's so awesome. But yeah, you can literally just go to the chat and be like, hey, this is a thing I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
I need your help. Can you create like a detailed prompt to help me do this, or a prompt template where you can fill in what you need? And it's really good. Like you said, it's really good at doing that. Or like for any beginner users too, one thing I'll find myself doing with ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, whatever I'm using, is I'll go to it and I'll be like, hey, I'm trying to solve this problem, and I'll give as much detail as I can. And then I'll say, what information do you need from me so that you can help me solve this to the best of your capabilities? And it will give you like 10, 15, 20 questions of context, and then just try to fill it out or speak into it, which is the easiest, to the best of your disability. So you're using things like that when you're speaking to the AI, of using
That's
it to...
game changer.
Yeah, 100%. And what kind of because one thing I don't think probably a lot of people are using on here that would be really helpful for them is, dude, like I told you, I use projects for everything. I have projects for different roles, tasks, bigger projects, single simple items, much bigger like deep dive general things. How do you break out your projects, and like what are your use cases for this? And it doesn't have to be writing related. It could be related to anything.
Let me think what I currently have. I mean, like I said earlier, I have one for email specifically, one for my day job that has like kind of the knowledge that I have in that day job and just puts it into a project. And then I have for LinkedIn specifically, I have a content writer that just helps me with like that's usually a project where I speak my posts into and then have it like edited for me and like work on it there. Then I have a content strategist, and that's usually when I work with clients, like when there's something where I'm unsure about, I want to put it in a format that's like easy to share with them. Because like, yes, you can write down everything in bullet points, but it's not very visually appealing. And AI is great at like putting it into a more visually appealing format. That's what I use that project for. And all those projects have pretty detailed like instructions of like what my role is for that specific project, what the knowledge is, like what I want to achieve with it. There's one for my personal content strategist where I just ask the thing like certain things I'm unsure about, like, am I in the right niche? Like, am I on the right track with this content? Like, what developments do you see happening? Let me think what else I have.
You mentioned some about your personal life too. Oh yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go
Oh
for
yeah,
it,
no, no,
man.
no. Yeah, I have one for my personal life where I just ask it. I mean, I mentioned this earlier. I do like jujitsu, and like it has a pretty high injury rate, and there's always like some things that I have, or like my finger doesn't work, and I'm like, I just injured my finger doing this. What could it be? And I give it all the context what I do in my free time, like what I eat, what my supplements look like, all those things, and like then it knows pretty well based on like what I know about you and your activity level. Like it could be this, right? Like, and it doesn't give you like the oh, I just like felt dizzy when I got up. Like if you ask the internet, like if you ask Google, it tells you have cancer. Good luck, But with ChatGPT, it's a little bit more nuanced, right? So for that, it works really well. Like sometimes I have scraps in the fridge and I'm too lazy to think of a recipe, and I just tell the thing, I have carrots, lemon, like what's it called? I forgot what it's called, but whatever, pasta, fish, and something else in the fridge. What dish can I make out of this? And it tells me, oh, you can make this, and this is exactly how you do it. Or like one time we were at an Airbnb and they only had an air fryer in our oven, and I was like, what are the best dishes for only an air fryer and like a pot of water, but it can boil, and then it gives you like great recipes. Or for like a competition, I had to lose weight, and the easiest way for that is like to not eat salt, which sounds like an easy thing, but not eating salt sucks. It's so terrible. It's
It
like,
makes food taste awful, man. I oversalt I think I
yeah,
need
same.
a lot of salt in my diet because I'm warm and I sweat a
Yeah,
lot. But yeah, dude,
yeah.
it makes everything taste way better.
It's disgusting. Yeah, it's so sad, especially if your wife eats the same food but with salt. But for instance, for that, like it comes up with great recipes that like make it somewhat manageable and gives you like ideas of how to eat food without salt that still tastes somewhat okay. It gives you advice like, oh, just like add lemon juice over like your fish instead of salt, because the acidity kind of like simulates eating salt, or put like nutritional yeast on it. Like all those things you would have to research for a while on the internet, and it just spits it out for you. So do not clutter up my regular ChatGPT. I just use that project for all those kind of questions, and it works really well, almost too well, where it's creepy. And I know there is some. I'm now really getting into the weeds, but there is like,
No, this is great, dude. I think this is what people need to know is how powerful these tools are. So yeah, no, keep
yeah.
going, man. I can share my own nerdy cases of using it.
There is this. I forgot exactly what the data is, but apparently, like your neuroplasticity like decreases the more you use AI, right? For instance, if you search something with Google, I think you remember it a lot more than if you search it with ChatGPT. So you want to be cognizant of like how often you use it. Like it can become a crutch pretty fast, I think. I don't think we're there yet, but the better it gets, the more of a crutch it will become. Yes, it's awesome to use it, but at the same time, yeah, like don't forget that like there are certain things you can do yourself. Just because AI can do it doesn't mean it should do it for you. And if you want to tie it back to LinkedIn, it's the same thing with writing posts. Like I think especially in the beginning, you should write posts yourself so you get a feeling of like what works and what doesn't. And then you can always outsource it if you still feel like you want to do that. Because like with anything, like I feel like you want to have at least an idea before you outsource it, right? Like the same thing with like design. Like I don't love designing. I'm not great at it. I'm okay at it. One of these days I'll outsource it, but at the same time I know what I'm outsourcing when that day comes. Because I know how to do it myself. I might not be a master at it, but I have a good understanding. Same thing, like you look at sports, like a good like football coach, like for instance, like has a good understanding of like how offense works and how defense works. They're not just a good offensive coordinator or a good like special teams coordinator. Like ideally they have an idea of how all these things work. They might not be a master at it. And now we're getting into sports. I don't know if you watch football, but like
This is great.
some really good head coaches are the ones that weren't like masterminds as an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, but they have a very solid understanding of how people work and like how everything works overall. Like they're a little bit of a jack of all trades, and that helps you see things from different angles. And I think the same thing applies to all kinds of things where you have to apply yourself a little bit, LinkedIn included, where you just want to have an understanding of it, and because that puts the whole bigger picture together in a more clear format than it would if you were only a good writer and everything else is outsourced and you've never done it in your life. I think there's a case to be made there. Yes, it's not fun and it might be a little strenuous at times, but I think it's worth it because it turns you into a more well-rounded being in a way. That's really crappy.
No, you nailed it, man. Yeah, there's a certain element here, and this is kind of what I've been writing about this some too on LinkedIn, is that if you give a superpower like an AI tool to an inexperienced writer who's like fresh out of college, maybe they studied something totally different, they're like, I'm going to start posting on LinkedIn. They're going to go to an AI and they're going to be like, hey, I just need a LinkedIn post on this topic. If you go to an experienced writer and they know what goes into a great LinkedIn post or just a great piece of writing and how to tap into the human psyche and emotional triggers, or they know how to use copywriting frameworks like problem, agitate, solution, before, after, bridge, benefit, whatever. That it's going to make an okay writer moderately better, and it's going to supercharge somebody who has skill proficiency and literacy to like whole new levels because they know how to think about and analyze the problem. So like your coaching example was perfect. Like if you have perspective and experience from different angles, that's the person who's going to use the tool the best because they know how to think about the problem the best. And dude, I've been reading probably the same headlines and studies that you have about like critical thinking is like, 50% lower. Like I saw something about like when we use AI tools, like our memory to recall the answers we got are like 60% lower or something than if we had gone to look up the problem ourselves, like you said, using Google. So I think there are some negative ramifications for sure. I think it kind of goes back to the user and how they're using it, right? It's like, are you using the tool to help you improve your critical thinking and what you're learning? Or are you using it as a crutch to like outsource how you think about problems, period, or how you solve them, period?
Yeah, but you're responsible with it, like there's all kinds of things out there where of course you could use them completely unhinged, and the results would be bad, like most people drink, right? Doesn't mean everyone is an alcoholic because people know when to stop, they know when not to drink, not to do it too often. Same thing with AI, like use it, but use it responsibly, like don't make yourself dumber by completely outsourcing your brain to like a software or like to a technology that is still only in its beginning stages, and God knows where it's going to go, hopefully in like a positive direction, but time will tell, it's a little bit like the internet just on steroids. I don't know, you could make the argument the internet brought a ton of stuff to people. Was it a net benefit to society or not? I don't know, like probably was, but with some negative downsides. And I think the same thing with social media. That was probably the biggest thing since the internet. There's a lot of negative. I think with social media, I think overall I would say like there's more negative to it than good. But that's also a different topic. And I think with AI, time will tell. I think right now it's a net benefit, but yeah, I mean, if what all the naysayers are saying is going to come true, where it's going to cost a ton of people their jobs, like probably not the best thing in the world, but my thinking is it won't cost that many people jobs, it will just kind of amp up it will raise the standards, like what's expected of you. If you work in a role, say as I don't know, like a software engineer, like instead of having 3 projects that you have to like finish by a certain deadline, you get 6 now, and you just have to finish those in the same time range because they expect you that you know how to use AI and to like speed up your productivity. Is that a good thing? I don't know. I think people can only take so much productivity, you got to live a little bit. We're not just cogs in the machine. But if it goes bad and like it goes unregulated, I think there's potential with AI that we kind of go back to like being factory workers, just in a different setting, where we're just pumping out stuff. But yeah, that's pretty dark. I don't know. You might not.
No, man, I think there's a lot of considerations in there that I've been thinking about too, man. I've been listening to hours of podcasts by people who are way smarter than me, and sometimes I don't even fully process it. Have to go back over the same clip like 2 or 3 minutes in chunks. And yeah, listening to people on all sides of this, of like very bearish, very bullish, very in between, all different kinds of like trainings, backgrounds, fields, and their perspective on this. I think you touched on something really important, which is that any technological revolution has both negative and positive to it. I think net for humanity, we're probably on a slighter positive trend of like, medicine's getting better, people are living longer, whatever, but we're also creating problems in different areas that we didn't have before as humans. But I think something that you said that I tend to agree with, although there are people who say, like, we've never faced a piece of technology that's an exponential growth curve like this before. I'm kind of on the same page with you at this moment in time, and this is like an evolving perspective I have of like, I was reading an example of that if we wanted to work less, and I think it was specifically saying for the United States here, of like if we wanted to work less, like when the personal computer hit its peak, I was listening to a guy write about this, of like, oh, we could have cut back like the 9 to 5 day to like 9 to 2 or 9 to 1 or 9 to noon or 8 to noon. I think he said when that came around, because he was like, we were so much more productive because we were so much more connected. But what happened? We kept the same work schedule and we just started doing more work. So I tend to think like you do, of where we're in this weird phase where companies that seem to be ahead of the curve, like I know Shopify is like said that, hey, we're slowing hiring until we can figure out if an AI can do this or not. And there's some companies who are like dwindling their workforce off and laying off people because of these tools. I'm kind of like you, where I'm like, if you look at the values of a country and the value is output and profits and productivity, I mean, like you said, there's a huge toll that it will take on humans if you're just seen as a productivity machine. But I think you're right. I hope that it doesn't put a lot of jobs in jeopardy, because companies will just be like, well, no, we'll just have people work the same hours. They can just produce more units or widgets per person.
Yeah, it's just like human nature, I think. It's like the same thing with like salary. Like when you're young and like you hear about like professional athletes or like, I don't know, pop singers or actors like making, I don't know, $20 million for a movie or like $20 million per year in a contract, you think, well, my parents make X amount of money. Like, why don't these people just like play for 1 year, get $20 million and then just like live off those $20 million like a king for the rest of their life? But what you don't realize when you think that is that those people are accustomed to a certain standard and they want more after they hit that level, right? Like, because the next thing you know, you make $20 million, but like your peers make 50 million, you're like, what the hell? I want to get there too. So like, instead of like doing less because you technically could with like the money you're making, because you don't need more, you don't need all that money to like live a comfortable life, even 20 million, especially not. But it's just human nature to like want more, So with productivity, yes, you could say like AI makes it possible where we could potentially only work half a day and get the same work result. But at the same time, like no company is going to say, let's just give our workers a break, and like work them a little bit less because now they have the capability. They will just crank out like twice the amount of work, and keep the work hours the same. And just as like a little like thing I was thinking about too is like with the internet or social media, there might have been some sci-fi workers that had an idea this was going to happen one day, but it was still kind of like a thing you couldn't really wrap your head around before because it wasn't really something you heard about anywhere else, like just like this weird construct, especially social media. It's such a weird platform or like such a weird idea in a way. But with AI, like that idea has been there since like the 50s, like in sci-fi books. You had the Terminator movies, you had like Blade Runner, you had all these dystopian movies, and like what idiot came up with the idea like, yeah, this is sick, like let's try to make this a reality, like that's just something fucked up about it.
Hollywood got their stuff to the wrong person who actually could make the thing happen. Yeah.
It just is like, it's weird that like you see the potential how this could really have hugely negative implications for society, and yet you still like drilled for it, It's like, I forgot, there's a movie where like, where like some explorers like they come across like some technology like an alien, like in the alien movies, and instead of like turning away and they're like, nope, they're just like, oh yeah, let's open this thing, and see what happens. And who knows, maybe we open Pandora's box, maybe we didn't, and it's great for society and it'll cure cancer, and like cure dementia and whatnot. But we'll see. I don't know. Like, I'm cautiously optimistic, but
yeah, I think cautiously optimistic are the two words that I'm thinking about a lot. And dude, I need to put that on a sticky note in like my mirror when I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, just to keep that in mind. Because yeah, some of the potential outcomes could be really scary and catastrophic, and hopefully they are not, because there's some net benefit to this too. I was gonna say, Simon, to circle back, and we can kind of wrap this up too, man. And I really appreciate all your time today. Like, you brought up so many great, actionable topics, advice for people getting into writing, like kind of kicking off into AI usage too. Since we kind of covered a lot of great tips and action items for writing, what would you recommend for somebody who's like just getting started in AI? Because dude, I have this feeling, and just from like talking to friends and coworkers, that people aren't using projects like AI projects to the extent that they could be and should be, that can be saving them a lot of time. Like, I know how much time they save me. I told you about my patio speaking writing example. How would you recommend people get started with using projects with ChatGPT or any of the AI models?
Good question. I mean, honestly, one good way to start about it is just ask AI, like, what are your capabilities? What can you do for me? I do X, Y, and Z in my life. Like, this is my job. This is what I do in my free time. This is if you have one, your side project, ask ChatGPT, like, how it can make your life as easy as possible, and then see what it comes up with answers. And I mean, honestly, I learned a lot about AI from just being on LinkedIn. Like, I follow a lot of AI influencers early on when I was like in the AI niche. And I honestly learned a lot from that. So it was worth something. LinkedIn is a great resource for that. And of course, there's other social media channels. There's a ton of people on Instagram or TikTok that are like talking about AI and its capabilities. So it's almost overwhelming, the amount of information. So yeah, maybe start with just asking ChatGPT, what can you do for me? And how can I get the best results out of you? What should I do? How should I format my prompts? And it might tell you, just ask me how to turn this into a prompt, or like, just ask me continuous questions instead of one big blob of prompt information, or it might tell you about projects, about custom GPTs, but you underestimate like how much you get out of ChatGPT or any other AI like software by just talking with it, kind of treat it like a receptionist or like someone at work that you ask questions, because unfortunately the thing can really emulate those kind of dynamics, for better or worse. So I think that's a great way to start. Just ask the program itself and see.
You're totally right.
Yeah.
You're totally right. I think you could even oh yeah. And I think you could even ask it too, of like, hey, I've got this thing that comes up in my life on a recurring basis. Should I make a project for this? Would that help streamline to get this done? Dude, one thing I wanted to ask you too, and gosh, we've covered so many great topics, and I wanted to cover this in the beginning, but I can't remember how we got started chasing a rabbit after that. But I was going to ask you, just to circle back to you, what are your primary goals for writing right now and LinkedIn? Like, what is it doing? What is it generating for you right now? And where do you see that going for yourself?
Yeah, right now I think it's just like building a brand for myself and learning in the process. And then hopefully like I can turn it into a full-time business where like eventually it gives me the opportunity to kind of like transition into like a new era where like I have an agency or something, and I can help more people with this, because I think there's a lot of potential in having your personal brand, and a lot of people don't really know where to start. So I would like to be part of that. That's my goal with LinkedIn. And then in general, I just want to, I don't know, live like a normal life, not like go completely crazy. I just want to have my free time. I want to live life outside of LinkedIn. I want to have time for other things. Maybe get a second cat. That's another big goal.
Yes, of course. Get Maggie a buddy.
She needs a buddy. Exactly. Yeah. And then other than that, that's usually professionally, that's about it, like kind of just grow my profile, turn it into a full-time career, and kind of see what the journey takes me. Be willing to pivot. I'm not married to the idea that I'm doing branding until I'm retiring. Maybe something else that's cool comes along, and then yeah, in the meantime, staying up with current trends. Being like a curious mind and like embracing new ideas instead of being stuck with one idea and sticking with it may come like what, it doesn't matter what happens. And yeah, that's kind of the rough plan. I don't know.
That's great, man. That's great. And something that you touched on right there that I think is so important for people too. Anybody who is thinking about writing online, and they're going to ask questions like, who's my audience? What's my niche? Is that too niche? Am I too broad? Like, what's my mission? Who am I really helping? Like, define my audience or my ICP or whatever. You said something so important right there, man. And you brought this up with how you write online too. If you've pivoted already, and you've pivoted well, and you are still growing, and you will build a brand that, even if you're doing branding, you're helping people with branding for a while, like, you will have the brand and the audience and the authority and the email list and everything of Simon, that if you decide to do something else, there are going to be a huge percentage of people who are going to be like, yeah, I'm really interested in the next thing that he's going to do. So for anybody listening to this, remember that you're not setting yourself or your personality or your personal brand in stone because you started here and you have to stay here. And now you're on the 30 or 40 year personal brand track that you just got locked into and you didn't know what you were doing. It's very moldable. It's pliable. You don't have to feel stuck in it. And I just am really excited for you, man. I'm excited to see where your journey goes. Like I said, I've really enjoyed your writing. I love your designs. I love the amount of personality that you bring to your feed, my feed. Just LinkedIn as a platform, like we've talked about, like it's a great place to be. It needs a little personality injection, for sure.
We do what we can.
We do what we can, man. We're only two people doing what we can, but you're doing it very well. Well, man, I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Well, I appreciate your time today, and thanks for coming on. I really would love to have you back on and talk more about the AI piece, because it's constantly evolving. And other than that, man, thank you. I think a lot of people are going to walk away from this with some really great writing tips, your toolkit that you're using, how you're using projects and stuff. And I will add all of that to the show notes along with your recommendations for people.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. This was like a blast. So let's do it again.
Yeah, man, I would love to. It's always a good time chatting with you, man. And we'll bring you back on so we can do it again. Well, Simon, I appreciate it, buddy. And I guess before we sign off, Simon, the best place that people can find you besides LinkedIn?
Nowhere right now.
Just go to LinkedIn, people.
I mean, I have a personal Instagram. I'll probably make like an Instagram here pretty soon for me, but we'll talk about that next time.
That's perfect, man. That's perfect. All right, well, man, I really appreciate it. And Simon, I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Talk to you soon, man. Have a good one. Bye.
You too. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of It Pays to Write. If you enjoyed this show, please be sure to like and subscribe on all the platforms we're on, currently on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and Substack. And I've got something extra special for you listeners of this episode today. If you're thinking about taking the plunge with writing, I have a free 5-day email course that'll get you started with AI and digital writing online, whether you want to start your own blog or if you want to write on LinkedIn or another social media platform. This is a free course just for you to dip your toes into writing online. You can get that course for free by signing up at aiwritingroadmap.com. That's aiwritingroadmap.com. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next episode.